Would you guys like to hear, and it's dealer's choice, would you like to hear Belichick describing Tom Brady's offense, or would you like to hear his response to the Seth Wickersham book that is out, which they detail stories from Brady and Belichick's time in New England?
Ooh.
And a couple of those stories are that Eric Mangini and Bill Belichick had to be pulled apart at the annual coaches meeting because Belichick blew off Mangini's wife because he was still bothered by Mangini trying to recruit players on the team plane after a playoff loss. So there's that story that's out. There's also the story that Belichick didn't want to meet with Tom Brady when he was leaving, so they spoke on the phone. So you mean dealer's choice.
You've gone into a lot of detail on that part of it. Let's start there.
All right, so Belichick.
You okay with that, Brady?
I mean,
you want to start there?
Sounds good to me.
All right, so Bill Belichick, he opened up with the media yesterday, and here was his thoughts and his comments on the book that is out by Seth Wickersham.
Morning. What's going on? Got any stories this week? I heard a few things about, this book, and sounds like it's a lot of, second, third, and fourth hand comments. So, but I'm not going to get into that. I'm going to focus on this game and try to prepare for the Bucs.
Now, first of all, I got to give Seth Wickersham credit. Perfect week to drop a book like this, right?
Why not? Why not wait until they're playing against each other?
Can I just say this about Seth Wickersham? I don't know him personally. I think he's got a good reputation. I think he's a talented writer. And, it's one of those deals where he was the first guy to throw it out there like, hey, they're looking at moving on from one another. They want to, they're looking for a divorce. Now, he said this in 2016, 2017. He called his shot years before it actually happened. So the only thing I'd say about that is I think, you can be a what do you call it? Like a card reader, a tarot reader. You could be a fortune teller, all right? If you keep it vague enough, and then everyone's going to look back in hindsight and go, oh, yeah, I guess he was right. I don't know that he was so much right with some of what he said. I'm sure there was some disgruntlement and everything else, especially when you're that successful and you've been together that long. But it seems like his name has been built upon trying to kind of call his shot for years, and it never really happened until it finally did. And then now, the timing of the book and all that, it's I guess that's his deal. That's his claim to fame with all this. But I don't know. Part of me doesn't buy into everything that's been sensationalized in the book and what he said.
That is the greatest word to explain how writers that write for that magazine do things or come from that background.
Right.
I just said what I just said the last segment. They both write or wrote for the same people.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And here's the thing.
It's entertaining, man.
Well, here's the thing. If you can be a bungholio about how you do things and you have a platform as large as that one is, and if you think about it, what is bigger than the four letters, right, in sports over the last 3 decades?
3 decades, yeah.
So you got to think. When these things are being written and they're being put out there, that's really the main thing you're consuming. That becomes what is your narrative or what is your Bible. I'm going here for the information about these people. I'm going here for the information about these teams. I'm going here for the information about whatever it may be. So when you have these situations come about, I thought you put it perfectly. Sensationalized is the best way. It's almost like you're creating this storyline that's suitable for a 30 for 30 or something like that, right? But when you think about listening to what Bill Belichick said and his response to it, it's like second and third and fourth parties. Right?
Yeah.
There was this game that we played in classrooms growing up. It was called Telephone, right?
Yeah. It's a great game.
You give the first kid in the classroom the message, and they pass it along. And you could say, I am the teacher of this classroom. We are going to be learning math today, and 1 + 1 = 2. And by the time it gets to the person that says what the message was, it is, the classroom is down the hallway. We're supposed to walk to the classroom, and one of us is supposed to get one other person before we go to lunch and have lunch and recess.
That's a long-ass telephone message.
It is.
I mean,
Yeah.
my recollection of that game was much shorter.
It might have been shorter. It might have been shorter. but you get my point.
Yeah.
Answer me this one. How many times was the message correct at the end?
No, you're right.
I don't recall
almost
one
never.
time.
Yeah.
I don't recall one time. And that's the idea of all of this, is when you're starting to create and piece together stories that are as scintillating, as they would say, right? As polarizing as a Bill Belichick and what he's got going on and why Tom Brady is going to leave. You're basing it off of what you believe your information dictates. It's not like Jay. Jay is getting that information directly from the horse's mouth.
Yeah.
A lot of these reporters in media or these writers, what they do is they take as much information as they can get from secondhand information, hearsay information, reports from here, reports from there, and they piece it together with the narrative that they've already created.
See, I think in books like this, because Seth Wickersham had the other one on in Seattle about Russell Wilson and, sort of the contentious relationship that the Legion of Boom, Richard Sherman felt like he got preferential treatment. I think, in situations like this, it's not 100% true, but I do think there's bits and pieces of truth that are mixed in. Probably
that's the point.
And as long
that's
as you,
the point.
as
Otherwise,
long as
it'd
you
be
do
a
that,
tabloid.
Exactly.
It'd be a tabloid,
exactly.
right?
And I think as long as you do that, it creates the conversation of, all right, which is true, which is not true. Like, what was the one?
But who wants to do that? Who wants?
Me.
I don't want to sit around and try to figure out if it's true. I want it. If they're telling me this is Brady Quinn, this is why Brady Quinn did this. This is why he didn't do that, and it came from Brady Quinn.
I can't wait.
I don't need a writer to be the one that dictates what I'm learning about these guys.
I can't wait to write the book on Brady Quinn.
I'm just saying.
I'm going to air his ass out. I'm going to air his ass out.
You want to air him out?
Let me get
Steroid
deep.
freak.
Let me get kind of deep on you guys. All right. I think everyone's truths come down to their perspective.
Truth.
And so I understand completely what LaVar is saying, because when you're an athlete, you got people who try to tell your truth for you.
Right.
And that's the most frustrating part. And that's why when social media came out, it now allowed athletes to tell their own
represent
truths.
themselves. Absolutely.
Now, that being said, Jonas is on the outside. He's got his own life experience and perspective. And he's listening and watching, and he's going to give his own truth of what he believes to be true.
And that might not necessarily be the whole truth. That might not
Well,
be the truth.
He's not going to have the perspective of the player, of the athlete, everyone else. I mean, the reality is there's a reason
I
why
see where you're coming from.
There's a reason why we're analysts, because we try to provide that perspective for those who haven't, been on the field and been in that spot where, like, hey, maybe this is what that player was thinking, or this is how he saw this. Like, from the eye in the sky never lies. Well, yeah, that's a pretty damn good vantage point. Like,
right.
I wish we could all live our lives with that bird's eye view of how we're conducting ourselves and how we see things.
Yeah.
But that's not reality. Like, when you're down there behind the line of scrimmage and you got LaVar Arrington getting ready to come off the line and blitz you or come pressure you, like, it's going to change the way you see things, right?
Sure.
And so that's the hard part is, I just think in general, like, I get it from all sides of it, but we all see our own truths, whether it's about ourselves or other people, through our own perspective. And that's where, like, the truth gets manipulated and it becomes tantalizing or sensationalized, and someone like Jonas is able to really love that. So I get it.
Man.
I get it, but
and I've told Brady this. This is the truth. When the reason why people in the media hate it when you guys drop a line like, well, you don't get it, you never play the game. The reason why people in media hate it is because it's true.
It's a mic drop.
And it bothers them. There's no response to it. I think it's hilarious. I think it's one of the funniest things that athletes do, because there is no response, because it's a fact. You didn't play the game.
But
like there's a perspective you guys have that we don't have. Well, so what do I do? I make up stories and fill in the rest. I got 4 hours to kill on the overnights.
It's one of the reasons when, like, editorial died, where I was thinking to myself, this is bad for a lot of media members.
Of course it is.
Because now you allow a bunch of guys who play the game that will not be as talented in writing or in journalism to be able to have more of a foothold in all of this. Because if it's all about a visual medium, if it's all about a podcast and storytelling, who's going to be better than players?
Yeah.
Who's going to be better than every single coach, player, general manager, whoever that wants to tell all these stories?
And those outlets were controlled.
Yeah.
It's right. It's like, think about it. If somebody says something derogatory about you, you have to hope that somebody does an interview with you. Can I get on the radio? Can somebody do a TV interview, local, national? Can I get in the newspaper? I got to wait. When is that going to print? When is that going to run? Media they were running things. And now social media and podcasting and new media has given people so many platforms to be able to speak their truth. Like, here's my thing, right? Just super quickly. Michael Wilbon, he wasn't no football player. I doubt he was good at basketball or anything like that. He works for that company as well. One of the dopest dudes you'll ever meet, does it the right way. The integrity of what he does, he has always protected it. And when you see him coming, you have a reverence and a respect for him where if he wants to know something, you give it to him. Because it's just, he is going to tell it the way you said it. And I'll say this. Our truths as players sometimes are skewed to what we want them to be, right? So sometimes it's good to have a different perspective coming from someone else. I'm not saying people have to kiss your ass when they're writing about you or when they're reporting about you. Did I make mistakes? Hell yeah. Did I have my moments? Hell yeah. I would never sit there and not be self-deprecating about things that I haven't done. That isn't the point. The point is when you try to create this narrative or this picture of athletes and players and you know nothing about us other than what you've seen or what you think it is, and then you create these storylines that are like you're writing something that creates an identity for these players. And I think that is the wackest S ever, because this person could be one of the nicest people that does great things, but yet you chose to create an identity based upon something totally inaccurate to who they were. And that has persisted for many, many, many generations of players. You might have thought this about a person, and this person wasn't able to have opportunities outside of the game based upon your report. And if you think about it, players are stock. We are a stock. So in the stock market, if you get people writing on stock, you can either make that stock go through the ceiling or you can short it. And nobody is going to want to invest in that stock, or people are going to truly invest in those stocks. So to me, when somebody wields that type of power and influence over what somebody's life could end, their life, not their career, their life, when you're holding that type of power over somebody, when you write these stories or you report on these stories, you should be very, very up to the task of protecting the integrity of what that feels like, what it looks like, what it sounds like. And a lot of these people don't do that. And that bothers me. And that's why I got in the media.